Is this £6,000 adventure bike the motorcycling bargain of the year? Let's find out. So this is the Voge DS625X, which is both not a very good brand name and not a very good model name either. But if you can look past that, there's a great motorcycle here because we have a parallel twin. Unsurprisingly, it's a 270-degree crank because, you know, everything is these days. So that means it's an offset firing order, so it has the feel and the sound of a V-twin rather than a 180 crank, which kind of has the feel and sound of a sewing machine. So that's something this bike has over the Honda NX500, which used to be the CB500X. That has a 180-degree crank, also less power. This makes 63 horsepower at 9,000 RPM. Yeah, the Honda engine is 47 brake, which is the A2 limit. So if you do want to ride this on an A2 license, you are going to have to get it restricted. Anyway, away from the engine, we also have a really nice TFT display, 7 inches, so actually it's bigger than you get on like a Ducati, which costs several times as much. They're still using a little 5-inch one. Really slick looking unit. Actually, it's got turn-by-turn navigation on if you link it with your phone. It's even got a front mounted camera, only 1080p, but you know, you can link it to your phone and it will automatically record. So if someone, you know, knocks you off or something and claims it wasn't their fault, you've got some evidence. Kind of think of it as a dash cam, I guess. We have rebound and preload adjustable Kayaba suspension at the front. We have fully adjustable suspension at the rear. So I've also got an adjustable screen. I'll adjust that when I'm on the move rather than now, just to see how easy it is. Dual channel ABS, and there are different ABS modes if you do want to go off road, so you don't have the rear wheel ABS just going mad on you all the time. 835mm seat height, so it's reasonably accessible. You've got these full LED lights as well. Actually, the lights, thinking about it, they're kind of, there's something a bit Kawasaki-ish about them with that sort of shark nosiness. But then it's kind of a multi-strada style beak, I guess you want to call it. So yeah, there's a few different influences going on, I guess, intentional or not. In terms of quality, you know, there are some cheaper feeling plastics, like this feels a bit low rent, but mostly all seems really nice, really nicely finished. It doesn't look like a bike that only costs £6,000. And yeah, the other thing was the last new adventure bike I was on was a Multistrada V2, which I could flex quite a lot with my knees, but everything here just feels a bit more solid, if not, you know, massively premium. So this was actually dropped off at my house, so I haven't actually ridden this. So you'll join me in a moment when I'm astride this, yeah, starting out for the first time and going for a bit of a ride. All right, here we go. And there you go, that screen. I'm dead impressed with that. For £6,000, I'll say it's nicer than what you get on stuff that costs double or more. So here we go. Yeah, that's very 270 crank, twin-ish. I should say actually, although it's called a 625, so that might make you think that the engine is around about 625cc. It's actually 583 or 581cc, something around then. I guess they didn't want to round up to 600 because 600 is what you think of with you know, high revving inline fours, and maybe 575 is a bit weird. I don't know. Anyway, that's what it's called. Whatever. Let's cut to me actually riding it somewhere else. Right, out of the estate. Oh, there you go, there's your TPM. Yeah, some stuff I didn't mention earlier. This is a 19-inch front, 17-inch rear. So it's not going to be one for, you know, any serious off-roading, and as well, I think that's reflected in the fact that it has Metzler Turrets tyres, I think they are. So they're very much a road-biased tread pattern and a road-biased shape. I might actually take on just something gravelly because that's probably the most this is going to do anyway. That screen though is very low, and that I believe is at its full extension. Someone else enjoying the lovely weather? I say lovely, it's a bit kind of cloudy, but a bit overcast, but it's nice and warm, good temperature today. No quick shifter on this, I don't think one is available either, but that's fine. Got a nice little mid-range growl, that. It's always interesting when you're kind of, yeah, experiencing a new engine for the same time, because all too often, you know, you're testing derivatives of bike where you've ridden something with the engine before, or certainly something very much like it. But this, yeah, this is a completely new engine, it's not anything else. Voge, you might know that name for the DS900X, or is it DSX900? DS900X, I believe it is, which is the one that's shares a fair bit in common with the BMW F900 GS. but it costs a whole lot less, and that seems to be the Voge thing. You know, this isn't like I said, brand name. It's fine, isn't it? I mean, it's, you know, in terms of weight, again, I'll go back to that CB500X / Honda NX comparison because I think that's quite useful. This, weirdly, they're listed as unladen weight, which I think is it's not the same as dry weight because it's still like with oil and everything, but no, yeah, that's still with oil and coolant, but no fuel. So it's 206 kilos. So I guess you probably want to add, I think it's a sort of 16-ish litre tank on this. So you want to add 16 kilos to that. Yeah, and for your reference, the Honda, you're very close, aren't you, to my bum? Yeah, the Honda, for your reference, I believe is 196 curbs. That is actually quite a lot lighter. So far, though, it doesn't feel unduly heavy. The ride is a bit firm, actually, not excessively stow. But yeah, I'm certainly feeling the lumps and bumps of this not particularly well surfaced road. Where are you going? You are going that way. Yeah. Throttle, a little bit, actually, yeah, at those low speeds, a little bit binary it was then. It was a bit kind of on and off, on and off. Yeah, that could be a bit smoother. What mode are we in? So this is in the sport mode. I guess in the E, it's slightly softer. I think it was a little bit snatchy in the S mode. I don't know what that, I think it probably doesn't do a whole lot other than the throttle response. You know what, actually, there's some graveliness here. Oh, there you go. Let's do some adventure. Let's try it with the TC on, actually. This was a bit incongruous because I'm in jeans. I mean, I'm not sure what this is supposed to prove, really, because, you know, you could probably do this in a scooter. Let's go on this bit at least. Yeah, I mean, it feels fine, but like I said, there's not really anything too audacious that we're doing here. Back up again. Yeah, bars have got a bit of a rise to them, so certainly fine in terms of reach. Yeah, it's give me a reasonable amount of confidence on this. Like I say, it's nothing too gnarly, but I don't think anyone who owns one of these is going to do anything gnarlier than this. Just kind of a tick in the box. Right, we go. It's all right. I mean, yeah, it's never going to be that quick. Oh, TC's flashing away quite madly there. I guess it's probably still got a bit of gravel on the tyre. Yeah, that's a lot of wind coming off that. It's a very low screen. I mean, in some ways, for my height, that's better, because if you have, oops, full beam on, because in some ways, you know, if I have the screen kind of more about there, it just ends up firing a load of horrible, yeah, it's that sort of rumbly air at my head. It's just a bit unpleasant. Yeah, and on here, this classic Fenton road, by classic Fenton road I mean bumpy as spook, does feel a bit firm. I can't really hear a whole lot of it, the bike, of the engine over that wind blast. Yeah, I wonder if actually I'd be better off just lowering that, if I can work it out how to do that. Right, so screen is down now. That's a bit protrudy, that full beam switch. I have knocked that a couple of times. Yeah, so I've been riding for a few miles. Screen is now down. I think that is preferable overall. It's still not great though. Even at like 30, you've got this like annoying little whistle, and all you got to do is like pop your head up a bit, and then yeah, that does reveal that it's probably better off without the screen. I think the screen is probably the worst thing about this bike. So it feels a bit lighter, I think, than the figures suggest. It probably helps when you've got that kind of firmness, so it's not sort of wallowing in its travel. It's not diving under braking too much at all. Yeah, it just feels quite nice and flickable. I should say I've driven down this road, but it's the first time I've ridden down it, so you'll have to excuse if I'm plodding along at an even more gentle pace than normal. Yeah, the engine. Yeah, I mean it's certainly preferable to a 180 crank twin like the one in the NX500. But it's far from like the fruitiest sounding one out there. It's a bit kind of workman-like, if that makes sense. Yeah, there's only so much you can do with a Euro 5 exhaust, but then at the other end, at the intake end, you know, you can do stuff to get a bit of like, you know, airbox honk in there, which other bikes do, I think, you know, a lot better. Tell you what, I want to make the comparison of it is, although it's a different kind of bike, the CF Moto 450 MT, because that it's much lower, yeah, less power, so, but it makes this fantastic racket, but you're never kind of going anywhere, so it's quite nice. You can just absolutely rev the nuts off of it, go for a few gears, and you're not speeding. That's kind of what I might have liked for this, because it's not, you know, it's only 63 brake, and yeah, you can give it a fair bit of a thrashing without doing silly speeds. But I think, yeah, it's just lacking a bit of something, a bit of character. I know that gets very subjective then, and you know, we're in kind of slightly wanky territory, but I think it does matter. And I think that's why, although this bike does have a lot of strengths, it is fantastic value. I don't know, I'm probably going to get, you know, like when you get to the end of a ride and you think, should I just go a bit further? Well, I don't think that's going to happen with this when I'm nearing the end. I think it's a pragmatic choice. You're going to look at, oh, actually another thing you're going to get for your £6,000, spotlights, and if you want a luggage pack, I think it's only 700 quid to add it. Yeah, so again, yeah, the value is incredible. I'll flick that on again. The value is incredible. There's only a few places it does feel cheap, like these levers look, you know, very basic. Like I say, there's this plastic bit here I'm not particularly keen on, but generally, yeah, it does not feel like a £6,000 bike. It's just lacking a bit of something, if that makes sense. But yeah, we've got some more corners to go, so you know, we'll stick with it and see if it can reveal something about itself. Should we do a test actually? I'm going to slow right down. Yeah, brakes are decent actually as well. No complaints there. I'm going to get down here, see if I can actually hear more of it. Here we go. Even then, it's just, like I say, better than the average 180 crank parallel twin, but just, yeah, lacking a bit of something. I have actually switched back to the E mode. I assume that's E for eco, and I guess the S is for sport, I would imagine. Yeah, in S, it was just a bit snatchy. There are times actually when in the E mode, the throttle does feel, the throttle does feel a little bit jerkier than I might like. But yeah, generally it's not too bad, but the S mode, yeah, I've kind of not bothered with again. Try it from third. Let's try a low rev test actually. Oh, what's he got? Is that a TT600? Yeah, the controversial one. It's pretty smooth actually. Nice bit of road this. I think I have to come here again. Good bit of flow to it. Yeah, handling wise, I don't have any complaints. Like I say, it feels light on its feet. It's not requiring much pressure on the bars to get it moving. Yeah, it was like a nice and nimble package. I quite like this size of adventure bike where you've not gone too far with it, which means it's better everywhere really. You're sacrificing a bit of speed compared to like one of the big heavyweights, but yeah, you're gaining in cornering on the road and when you're going off-road. Because I know that was only like a general bit of grabbiness, but even on that sort of stuff, if you are in like a top heavy, you know, full bore adventure bike, say like a Triumph Tiger 1200, a bike which I took on the Triumph Adventure thing in Wales and dropped twice, I think. Yeah, you don't get that kind of feeling of top heaviness. So you know, the gentle bits of off-road that you're going to do are going to feel fine, really. Right, here we are, a new day. So that first part, I guess you can call it, we can call like the first impressions. Now I've had another ride on it in between then and today, where I switched the camera off and just kind of got on with riding rather than trying to ramble on. We've got to be careful here because people like to pull out. Yeah, there's that jerky throttle again. But I think I judged this engine a bit too soon, which is why I thought I'd do this follow-up section. Because if each guy finally gets out of the way, yeah, if you knock it right round to the top, so the peak power is at 9,000, but if you rev a bit more than you need to about 10,000, it does actually sound quite nice and aggressive. It reminds me a little bit of the Honda Transalp. It's not a patch on that in terms of, you know, raw, visceral, whatever you want to call it, you know, ness. But yeah, it's actually really enjoyable when you get to know it and just learn that you've got to just absolutely cane it, rev the nuts off of it. Yeah, I do think the screen is probably what's not helping, because it's drowning out a lot of it. Yeah, so if I do that, you can see actually it's much better. You don't get the whistling, you don't get the kind of low end boominess. I think it's definitely, yeah, the screen is the weak point. I mean, obviously, as a taller rider, most adventure bike screens I find a bit rubbish. Are just the wrong height for them, but I think this one you would have to be quite a lot shorter than me to actually kind of get under it. As you can see, it's in the lower position now. You do have to, I should point out actually as well, you can lower it on the move, but I don't think you can. There's nothing to grab to that I can see to raise it. That's fine, because I've stuck it in the lower position. I don't intend on putting it back up any time. But yeah, the more I've ridden this, the more I've enjoyed it, the more I've been impressed by its price. Obviously we have to discuss the elephant in the room. I don't think it's the elephant in the room, but it's for some people, which is that, yes, it is a Chinese company, and this is a bike that is made in China. And that bothers a lot of people. I don't know why, because, you know, like it or not, so much of the stuff in our lives is made in China. I think the only way you could not have anything made in China is probably to live in the woods and not have any, you know, consumer things at all, because if it's not made in China, it will probably have parts that are made in China at the very least. You know, that's just a part of life. But for some reason, a lot of people seem to draw a line at motorcycles and get a bit annoyed about it. But you know, it doesn't bother me, and if it doesn't bother you, you have a fantastic value motorbike. I suppose it is in a bit of a weird no man's land in terms of power. So you've got, you know, the CV500X, now the NX500, which is the 500NX, which I've mentioned a few times. But then that's kind of A2 compliant and it's 47 brake. And then kind of you've got a step up from that, which is stuff like the Yamaha Tracer 7, but that's then got quite a bit more power. Probably feels a little bit more premium, but also a lot more expensive. But yeah, £6,000, 6,700 or 6,800 or whatever it was, with the luggage pack. I think that is very reasonable indeed. Yeah, fun motorbike on the road. I think it probably benefit from, I mean, the tyres it's got on it, they are Metzler Tourants. They're described as like an 80-20 towards tarmac, so not designed for anything too rough off-road. I think you could probably benefit from going even more road biased than that. You know, something like a Pirelli, what I've got my Mulchshider, which is, well, let's knock it down. Let's knock it down. There we go. You see what I mean? Yeah, it's quite nice, like I said, a gravelly, angry, yeah. There are better sounding 270 crank parallel twins, but yeah, this is up there with them, I think. Still feels pretty quick. Yeah, I've had a bit of a go with the app. It's yeah, it has a few issues, but it keeps switching to Chinese, and then you've got to kind of go out of it, go back in again for it to go back to English. It's only rated as 2.6 or 2.7 on the Google Play Store, so you know, make of that what you will. Yeah, I couldn't get it to. I think you've got to connect the camera to Wi-Fi if you want to get the camera feed to go to your phone. I couldn't seem to connect. There are some numbers listed on the little Wi-Fi box thing where you can put the SD card, but none of them seem to work. So what I'll do is I'll stick an SD card in it, and in a minute I'll overlay what the footage looks like. As I say, I'm not expecting anything spectacular. It's, you know, 1080p, which these days is a pretty old hat when everything's, you know, 4K. But yeah, if you've got that running constantly, you can just think of it as a dash cam, I guess, you know, which, let's face it, on motorbikes where people frequently don't see you, could come in handy at some point. It should just something unpleasant happens. Yeah, it's pretty low revs that, but it's not you know, chuntering and rattling away. Main misgivings with this, yeah, the screen, as I've mentioned probably too many times now. Throttle could do a bit more finesse. I think it's quite snatchy in the sport mode, and still is a kind of bit binary at times, so you kind of like, you just sort of seem to go off and on if you're at certain revs and certain speeds, and even in the normal mode. Dead thing. Well, that was splattered. Yeah, the MPG for this is showing as 4.6 litres per 100 kilometres. I don't know if you can change that to MPG or not, but I'm going to work. I can pull up what that is on here. Yeah, display very nice, especially for the price. Other things I'm not keen on. Side stand is a little bit perilous. I think it's just a bit too tall, and it means the bike is very upright. So, you know, it kind of looks like, yeah, slightly perilous. I should mention actually as well, one of the other things this bike comes with as standard is a centre stand, so that's always good. It comes with crash bars as standard. Yeah, really, the spec for £6 is quite phenomenal. There are a few bits that aren't as good, but you know, the same is true of bikes costing a lot more. It's really, I'm surprised by just how well rounded it is. And yeah, pretty good fun in the corners. Feels, I think, lighter than it actually is, which is always nice. Yeah, there's the occasional hint of vagueness from those tyres where they are, you know, slightly blocky, so that's why I think, you know, unless you're probably going to keep this on the road for the most part, so I think, yeah, when that first set of tyres is worn out, you are probably going to want to switch for something, I think, a bit more road biased. But yeah, that kind of comes down to personal preference. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. It's £6. It's really good. Bargain of the year. We're already about sort of a third of the way into the year, getting on for half. Yeah, this might actually be the new motorbike bargain of the year so far. Let's see by the end of the year how that ends up. But you know, if you disagree and think there's another motorbike which presents better value for money, do let me know. All that's left to say is the usual stuff. If you haven't switched off by now, I don't want to blame if you had. But yeah, do like the video, subscribe, and do that stuff. Until next time, bye.